Good morning. I'm Brad DeLong. And this is my morning coffee. I voted for Barack Obama in the California primary yesterday. It has, this year, been an embarrassment of riches on the Democratic side. A half dozen or so candidates, any one of whom would, I think, have a reasonable chance of being in, say, the top 20% of American presidents, if they were to be elected. And compared to the Republicans, it's zero. There's nobody on the Republican side who I think has administrative competence, American values, rationality, and sanity. Indeed, when I look at those four keys, I can't find a Republican candidate on offer this year who's betting better than 250. Party to party, it's no choice. Now we are down to two candidates on the Democratic side, which doesn't include my initial favorite, John Edwards. The two are Barack Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton. The arguments against Barack Obama as president, are threefold. First, Barack Obama has no administrative experience. He has never run a large organization. He is thus not going to be prepared to be president. 2, Barack Obama is too liberal. 3, Barack Obama is black, and thus vulnerable to the politics of personal destruction, which the Republican Party is so good at practicing. Now, the head of Hillary Rodham Clinton, there are three very close potential disabilities as well. First, her one big administrative assignment as czar of the Clinton administration's healthcare reform effort in 1993-94, at that she was a complete and total disaster. That has to give you great qualms about her administrative competence. It was simply not something anyone wants to repeat. Second, there are people who say that she's too centrist, and she isn't a proper standard bearer for the Democratic Party in this particular conjuncture. Third, she is both female and a Clinton, which means that she is especially vulnerable to the politics of personal destruction as practiced by the Republican Party. The fact that Democrats have a huge edge in generic presidential ballots and yet don't in individual ones, well, it tells you how much the Republican slime machine has managed to do over the past several years to get ready for the election. And perhaps Democrats should be looking for a somewhat different candidate. Now, the responses to these three problems. The response to number one for both sides is at this point relatively convincing. Both Barack Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton have now demonstrated an ability to run an excellent political campaign. Running a successful presidential campaign, it's not the same skill set as being a president, but it's a reasonably closely related one. Both have demonstrated a degree of competence in running their campaigns that's quite heartening. That makes me very confident about Barack Obama, and that comes close to erasing the memory of 1993-94 for Hillary Rodham Clinton, where people say that she has changed, and looking at the campaign, it's hard not to credit that argument. They've managed to run campaigns without making themselves hostage to special interests or telling big lies in the way that, say, George H.W. Bush did, and thus crippled his presidency in advance. A Barack Obama who was just a pretty face who could give a nice speech, well, he could not have run the campaign he has run over the past 2 years. The Hillary Rodham Clinton, who made such a hash of healthcare reform in 1993-94, would have made similar hash of the disorganized scrimmage that's running a presidential campaign. It's heartening. Thus, I now think both have a shot of becoming a good American president if they were to be elected, which is true of none of the candidates on the Republican side that we have on offer. The response to 2 is that the policy differences are in fact quite minor. The policy differences are being amplified by both campaigns. Each campaign thinks it has to have something to talk about, and each has decided to play a negative-sum game for the Democratic Party and for the country as a whole by making the differences larger than they are in fact are. Barack Obama is in fact a more liberal senator than Hillary Rodham Clinton, although not as liberal as you would think if you trusted the in-the-tank National Journal. And yet the big policy difference between Obama and Rodham Clinton is supposed to be that Obama is to the right of Clinton on health care. Our experience with auto insurance mandates tells us that Hillary Rodham Clinton's belief that individual mandates to purchase health insurance will necessarily get us close to universal coverage. That's true only if it were administered through the tax system, and maybe not even then. Barack Obama's idea that businesses should pay or play, the requirement that employers either offer health insurance or kick in money to the system, that can be very close to being an employer mandate, which gets you to universal health coverage if the pay component is set at a high enough level. Either plan could produce effectively universal coverage. Either plan could fall significantly short, with the devil being in the details. It's not worth making a huge fuss on. What is going on is that, as Matthew Iglesias wrote someplace that I cannot happen to find this morning, that both campaigns need something to talk about and are magnifying their policy differences on health care and also on Iraq in the hopes of getting an edge as they go through the primary season in what now looks like a deadlocked, even completely struggle. But what policy differences there are, they're insufficient to really push anybody toward one rather than the other. They're not disqualifying. And as for three, well, it's simply not a consideration. The Republican Party, the Republican slime machine is very, very good at what it does. The Republican Party is very good at the politics of personal destruction, and the American press eats it up, no matter who the Democratic candidate is going to be. When the draft dodger Dick Cheney can impugn the patriotism of World War II bomber pilot George McGovern without any journalistic pushback at all, without any journalist thinking it's worth noting that George McGovern risked his life in the skies while Dick Cheney went and hid out, well, we already know that America's Washington Village journalists are completely without honor. And we already know that the only Republicans with honor left are those who are openly and publicly committed to the radical transformation and reform of their party. We wish them luck, but we do live in Fici Romuli and not in Platonis Politeia. We do live in the sewers of Romulus and not in Plato's Republic. We have to deal with the political situation as we find it. So none of the arguments against either candidate seems disqualifying to me. Why then did I vote for Barack Obama rather than for Hillary Rodham Clinton? Well, Barack Obama does give a really, really nice speech. I'm Brad DeLong, and this is my morning coffee.